Brett, welcome to the show, man. Great to visit with you.
Thanks for having me.
So you just got back from a trip. Now, where did you go?
So we go with the family. We go down every year down to Summerlin Key, which is about 20 miles from Key West.
Okay. And how long were you there?
We rent the house for the month. Every now and then, just to come back and get everything taken care of back at the house. We'll come back and go back and forth, but we luckily get the whole month.
And so you're from where then? What part of Florida?
We're from Manatee County, so in Parrish, Florida, just on the south end of Tampa Bay.
Okay. I went to Manatee County. I don't know. I guess they probably have manatees there. I think my brother played a soccer tournament when I was in high school. And we went to like Crystal River or something.
I don't know. That's about 2 hours north of me.
It was where the original Hooters was.
Okay, yeah, and that's there
that's
is
their
a bunch
claim
of
to fame.
River, yeah.
But you could go swimming with the manatees there. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what are the most common species that you target? And is it do you mostly do saltwater fishing, or you do any freshwater as well?
No, we do freshwater as well. Here at home, it's mainly snook, trout, redfish, tarpon, permit, and then of course all the offshore stuff: grouper, snapper, cobia.
Uh-huh.
But then we're down in the Keys. It changes up a little bit. We're going more for dolphin, swordfish, and then inshore stuff: tarpon, permit, obviously sharks.
Right. Yeah, I actually went to Florida for my 40th birthday last August, and fished with Captain Mike Holiday for snook. And because we have snook in Texas, but it's not a great fishery off our coast. I think we're kind of on the fringe of their natural range.
Yep.
And we certainly don't have the giant ones. So we flew into Palm Beach or Palm Springs? I always get those two mixed up.
Palm Beach.
We flew into not Palm Beach, but oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting the name of that airport, but it's gross. It was the most rundown.
Was it Miami?
No, it wasn't Miami. Gosh, I should have had all of this categorized in my mind before we started talking. I'll add it in, but yeah, it was a great trip, and we caught, I lost count of how many big snook, but I didn't catch the 40-incher. My wife did. And so I'm getting a replica done for her. Not that she cares, but
Nice.
I want to have it in the house.
Yeah, you gotta have it.
Yeah. I looked at Mike and I was like, "How big do these things get?" And he's like, "That big." It was like 43 or 44 inches.
Oh man, that's a stud. And so you were on the East Coast. So we have on the West Coast we get them that big, but over there for some reason those snook are, if you catch a 40+ incher, it's going to weigh easily 20+ pounds. I mean, they get so much bigger over there than they do on the West Coast.
It was a monster. And I didn't realize, because I had never caught one in Texas, that those fish don't have teeth. They're like a bass. So you can, and that ties into today's conversation, because you can actually lip those fish.
You can.
Yeah. Very cool. So what kind of freshwater fishing do you do?
We do a lot of speck fishing, a lot of bass fishing. We're fixing to I just got my gator tags in the mail. So we've got 2 gator tags coming up in September. So
and I see it looks like you spend a good amount of your fall chasing white-tailed deer. For the people listening on the radio or the podcast, there's at least 4 shoulder mounts and a blue-winged teal mount back there too.
We just got moved into this house, and I finally got my little cave. I've been very fortunate. I've got my dad was a tomato grower for 35 years, and we've got a farm that I could hunt just east of here. And there's some absolute studs for Florida. Those are all, everything you see is all Florida deer. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Got lucky, man.
I feel like your deer probably are like closer to the body size of what we have in the Texas Hill Country. Like the bucks there, sometimes, 120 pounds is a big one. And then you go to South Texas, you get a 220-pound deer, or North Texas, where I live, 220, 240-pound buck. It's not a rare thing. But you guys,
there's guys here that are just east of me. I'd say 40 miles east of me. And I mean, they're obviously feeding protein year round. And a lot of these deer have been eating protein their whole life, but I mean, they kill some 200-pound deer here, but I would say your average, either public land or average deer that's not eating protein, I would say, 150 would be a really good one. And we've killed some, up in the 170s, but those are freaks.
Far between. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you became Insta famous about a month ago. It might have even been a month. But
well, Sunday, this coming Sunday will be 4 weeks. So.
Okay. And so first of all, who was recording and who all was on the boat?
Yeah, so that was recording, which is that we've talked about this so much. She's my cousin Courtney, and gets to come down with us for a couple of weeks there at the end, and she records everything. If it was up to me, there would never. I don't take any pictures. I don't film anything. But she records everything, and she puts it all in a group text at the end, and we all get to see cool videos, everything. But now she just happened to be recording, and my wife was with me. I've got 3 boys. I've got a 7, a 5, and a 2-year-old. And they were all right there in the video. And then I've got another cousin, Rebecca, was with us too. So it was a crew.
Okay. So then how does the video make it to social media? Was there any conversation about that?
Well, yeah, because on our way back, we got on our way back from the hospital, so many people had already talked to Mandy about it just from the family. And we discussed, because I don't have prior to this, I don't have any social media. I mean, or I do, but I don't go on it.
Right.
But Mandy was, and we had a younger girl that was with us there, one of my other cousins, and I got to give her credit because she's our social media manager, basically, because she's like, y'all got to put this on there. This is going to go crazy if you put it on there. And she was running out of her room saying, so 10 hours later, it had 1 million views, and every million she'd run out. She's like, that 2 million, every 30 minutes, there was another 1 million views. It went crazy quick.
Yeah. Well, and I get stuff sent to me all the time, and I don't know who it is or where it's from. I was like, oh, it kind of looks like Florida, but you don't know. And there wasn't the way that I got the video, there wasn't any TikTok or Instagram handled. No. And so I put it out there, and I don't even remember what I said. Watch your fingers or something. And and so what actually happened? We've talked about the how it went viral so quickly, but what happened that day?
Yeah, so when you're out in that area, there's a couple spots that we always go. So it's an awesome little sandbar, and the kids get to play around. And as you're pulling up to the sandbar, there's lemon sharks swimming everywhere. And they might be 2 feet long, and they might be 6 feet long. They're everywhere. And they're not, a lemon shark is normally not an aggressive shark. I mean, they can be all around you. We swim with them all the time down there while we're lobstering, and it's really not a shark that we're overly worried about. We're more worried about bull sharks mainly. But so while we're sitting there, we catch barracudas. We let the kids catch barracudas and tarpon, and there's permit around. So we're everybody will be kind of booze cruising on the front, and we'll have a couple rods out the back and letting everybody fish. So this just happened to be near the end of the day. We saw a couple bigger sharks, so we threw a big bait out, and it didn't take very long and got bit. And I was actually explaining to a couple people, this is how you bring them in, and you want to get the hooks out. You want to make sure we get the hooks out. And I truly just got unlucky, because we do it a lot that way. And that shark happened to be hooked in his pec fin, in between his pec fin and his gill. So normally if he's hooked in the mouth, you almost have a little more control over him, because that's pulling so hard on his mouth. But since he was hooked in the gill in the pec fin area, he could do everything he needed to do. Plus it was a little bit deeper. So with their tail being actually having the water instead of being shallow, he was able to spin a lot easier. So
what is the proper way to take the hook out of a shark's mouth? Because I know a lot of people just cut the line.
Well, this is, so I'll go through all 3 scenarios. Most people just cut the line.
Yeah.
Well, if you do that and you show people that, like I did on one of my TikTok videos, you get hammered for leaving a hook in the shark's mouth. Now, here's the crazy thing. How many other sharks did we hook that just cut the line and we never saw them? I don't know. I hooked 100 sharks during that month that just cut my hook off. So, it happens. It's going to happen. Right. They got sharp teeth. If you're not fishing wire, you're going to cut some hooks off. The wrong way to do it is to put your hands down near their mouth like I did. It's the wrong way to do it. The right way to do it, I would say, and the safest way would be a commercial de-hooker. I mean, they make de-hookers that are 3 feet long, and you just wrap it around the line, slide it down, and pop it off. That's the correct way to do it. That way the shark doesn't have a hook in his mouth and your hands are still intact. But
yeah, but the reality is, like you said, I mean, it happens with barracudas too. They're going to cut you off. They're going to break you off with those sharp teeth. That hook's going to be in their mouth, and it's not going to kill the fish. It sucks. It's a it's a byproduct of what we do, but it's not. I don't want people to think that these big, especially bigger sharks, it's not going to negatively affect them. It's not going to kill them. They're not going to starve to death. But yeah, but we do want to get the hooks out if possible.
Absolutely. Here's a crazy story. We caught probably a 15-pound mahi that had a clean jig in its stomach, and it was still eating. So I mean, I don't know how much longer if it would have hurt that fish or not. I don't know how long it was in there, but it was an actual jig that was in its stomach. It made it all the way down. It wasn't hooked on anything, and that fish was still alive and eating. So I think a lot of times they can work through it, but I mean,
you see the stomach contents of some of these sharks people catch. It's like license plates and all sorts of weird crap. So I don't think that kind of stuff necessarily is fatal most of the time. But I'm not a scientist or biologist, so we'll leave that to them. Okay, so you get your hand a little too close to this lemon shark's mouth, and he basically saws off your pinky. The video, your commentary was pretty graphic. I mean, I was like, I don't know if I would have said that, but again, I've also never had almost had my pinky severed off.
Well, that's another thing. I have never dealt with any sort of social media comments. I've never done anything online, so I've never dealt with people just raking you over the coals for everything you do, which is, hey, it comes with it. But I got a lot of hate for the language in front of my kids. That was an issue, which I need to try harder. But
we all do. That's okay.
So when it happened, I got a comment on that video, and a man said, "First you declare you lost your pinky. Now you're telling us that you have your pinky." Well, the story with that is, as he was twisting around, I pulled my hand out, or I didn't pull it out. He let go. Thank God he let go. He let go. I briefly glanced at my hand as I pulled it out of his mouth. My finger wasn't where it was supposed to be. I didn't see it. It was twisted around underneath where I could. That's what I saw as that. So when I looked at it, I thought it was gone. Well, they hurried up and I had to crank the boat up. I started getting the anchor, and I'm bleeding all over the boat, and they finally got me wrapped up. And probably 10 minutes after they got the tourniquet on, we were on the phone with 911. Trying to figure out if they needed to pick me up or if I needed to drive to the hospital. We're trying to get that all figured out. Well, she opened it up because they were asking how bad the wound was. So when my cousin Courtney opened it up to see how bad the bleeding was, she goes, "Oh my gosh, you do have a pinky. It's still there. It's barely there, but it's still there." So I'm 10 minutes later, I find out that it actually is still hanging on there.
Wow. Yeah. And so what was the extent of the damage that this lemon shark caused?
Well, I don't know how graphic you guys want to get on here, but
we're not queasy folks over here.
So they got me in this splint. I had so much tendon damage that I've got to have my wrist cocked at that angle so it doesn't stretch the tendons out. But the stitches are out, still swollen pretty bad. But on the top, there was about 100 stitches between my pinky, on the bottom side of my pinky, all the way around the top. I mean, this part here was just, there was hardly any skin. You could see all the tendons and the bone and everything, but you can see close, there's still a pin.
Oh yeah.
That's keeping my pinky in place.
And they expect you to have full mobility of everything, and
they do. So I was at therapy this morning actually, and for me to be able to do that is a big deal. I mean, I haven't moved at all in almost a month. So she got me moving pretty good this morning, loosen it up.
Wow. That's incredible. And so, yeah, I didn't realize that it got more than just your pinky, because that's like that he cut you all the way across the top of your hand.
And that's what's crazy is I didn't feel, I mean, it didn't, and that's how sharp their teeth are. I felt him grab my pinky. I had no idea that he touched the top of my hand. And he absolutely hamburgered the top of my hand. And I didn't even know it.
Wow. I learned the hard way with saltwater species with a red snapper, because coming from growing up, I was only into freshwater and bass fishing. That's what my dad did. We're 6 hours from the coast. And so a college buddy, his dad had a boat, and we would go out of Port Aransas. And like the first time I ever went snapper fishing, I stuck my finger in its mouth and found out real quick why they called it a snapper, and they only have like a couple teeth, but one of them went right through my fingernail. And I was like, oh my God, those saltwater species are gnarly.
They'll pop you good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what were your kids' thoughts on all of this? Like,
man, the kids freaked out for a second. Like I said, the first thing I try to do is, I don't know how bad it is yet. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I got to crank the boat. I got to get the anchor. And Mandy had to almost stop, grab me and say, you need to get wrapped up. You're bleeding everywhere. You're freaking the kids out. And so she gets both of them up to the front of the boat. And I remember Courtney saying, you need to talk to the boys because they're freaking out. They're on the front crying. And I remember taking my glasses off and telling them, I'm all set. It's just a cut. It's not a big deal. I'm going to be fine. And they calmed down. But
yeah, man. And I can't imagine. The blood obviously freaks kids out for sure. I've got 3 kids too. I'm just thinking we haven't had to deal with that. The craziest thing I've had happen was right when COVID started. We were going to the deer lease like all the time because there was no school. There was virtual for a couple of weeks. There just wasn't anything. And so we were spending, 3-4 days at a time at the deer lease. And I put up some barbed wire around a feeder to keep the cows out. And I just hear my son screaming. I think he was probably 7 at the time. And I look back and he's walked into the barbed wire and has a huge gash now over his eye and bleeding everywhere. And so I call my wife, who's a nurse practitioner. I was like, at this point, you don't want to take him to the hospital because everyone is at the time being told that everyone's dying of COVID, right? So we're like, I don't want to take him to the hospital. What do I do? She's like, all right, go to the Dollar General and buy some super glue and super glue that thing shut.
Glue and shut. Yeah.
So luckily it was on his eyelid above his eye, and I glued it shut. She kind of walked me through as we videoed it, and really you can't even see the scar. So it worked out, but it freaked me out on the other end of the spectrum as the dad who I'm having to fix up my kid, not the extent of your injuries. But the funny thing was then so we go to sleep, he's fine. The next morning I wake up and both of his eyes are swollen. I'm like, what happened to your other eye? A hornet had stung him in the middle of the night right on his other eye. And I have this picture of Henry sitting there with a thumbs up, and he can't even see out of either eye. It was like, the start of COVID.
It's funny stuff right there.
Yep. So how long did it take you to get back on the water?
I did not go the next day. The hospital I was in, they checked me in about 4:00 in the afternoon, which is crazy. I'd never been in a helicopter before. So they took me a helicopter to Miami. It was about 40 minutes to get to the hospital. Mm-hmm. Checked me in about 4:30, 5:00 in the afternoon. And then I was in surgery at 10:30. They released me the next day at about 4:30 or 5:00. We drove back home, we drove back to the rental house, and the family went out the next day. But I think it only took me 1 day of rest. And then it's kind of our situation down there is it's my boat, and there's a lot of people that are, wanting to go do fun stuff. So I just took my meds and, figured I'd just drive with one hand. Yeah. So, but then we only missed a couple more days. And it was, if you look at the glass half full, the weather was horrible for the last 2 weeks in the Keys for us. I mean, we only got to swordfish 2 days early. And then after that, the wind was blowing so hard that you couldn't go offshore. So we spent a lot of time out back and kind of doing the same thing. I mean, we were going back to that same sandbar a few days later, the same area.
And have you hooked a shark since that happened?
Yeah. Yeah. We caught a bunch.
Was there any like moment like where you're just a little gun shy, like
Well, that's so
PTSD from lemon sharks?
Oh man, and this is probably I would say it's embarrassing to say, but I mean, doing that stuff is so normal, and I just got unlucky that no, I mean, our middle son Graham, we'd hook a shark and he'd run to the front of the boat and say, "I'm out of here," but the rest of them were fine. But no, we actually ended up found a bunch of tarpon in that same area, and big snapper way back, all like backwater snapper. It was pretty good after that.
So I did see, and so I posted the video, but then Rob Chapman has a fishing page, and he was I don't know if he was in contact with you, but he was giving updates on your situation.
Yeah, he was.
And you were kind of just like you are here today. You're not afraid to make fun of yourself, and I'm a big fan of self-deprecating humor. And if you're in the public eye, it just comes with the territory. You weren't in the public eye. You embraced it though, which I applaud. When I reached out to you, you're like, sure, I'll come on and talk about it.
Yeah.
Some people would be like so embarrassed that something like this happened to them that they would just go into a shell and like kind of give the world the middle finger.
Well, and that's what's crazy about it too, is like I said, I've never done this before, and I didn't know how I was gonna take the comments. But I mean, I have been called a Guggen. I've been called a rookie. I've been called. I mean, it is. And I've been doing that. I'm 37. I mean, we've been fishing here our whole lives, and it just goes to show you, it can happen. I don't want to say I'm any good. I'm not good at it, or I'm not a pro at anything, but you just make a couple little mistakes in a row and you get caught. But.
And so I did read a funny comment that you made on Rob's page, and I think you have a new nickname at the docks.
Pinkie.
I love it. Well, I'm happy that you didn't lose your Pinkie. Obviously we all are, and that your attitude speaks volumes about the way you approach life, and I kind of resonate in that. And I've said and done plenty of dumb things in the public eye, and you just gotta own it. And it is what it is. We live and we just move on.
Yes, sir.
Get back in the saddle or get back on the water. So I appreciate the time, and I hope that your recovery continues to go swimmingly, and that you have a great fall and hopefully put another nice buck on the wall.
Yeah, man.
Oh, and so now you're Insta famous and TikTok, and so where can folks go follow you?
Oh, so it's hard for me because it was all on my wife's page, which it's at Reader Mandy with 2 Y's. But it's so frustrating because they keep taking our videos down. They let everybody else put them up. We put one the other day of taking stitches out, and there's a bunch of other videos of people taking stitches out, and they took ours down. So she's been
TikTok.
On TikTok, yeah. So
okay, I'm not on the TikTok, so I'm just on Instagram and Facebook. But
I'll tell you what, I don't know it. Sorry, on TikTok is at Reader Mandy with 2 Y's. And then mine is at Bear with me.
Mandy just handed him a notepad with his own social media stuff.
Yeah, because like I said, this is all new to me. On Instagram, it's at Reader Brett with 3 E's. Hold on a second. I'm doing this. How about we do that?
Reader. Okay. Oh, okay. At Breeder 1459. And okay, your Instagram, Reader Brett with 3 T's. Okay, got it. Perfect. Well, thanks, Mandy, for that.
Yeah. What would I do without her?
I know. I'd be lost without mine too. Well, hey, you guys have a good one. Thanks again for the time, and I look forward to seeing what you guys put out on social. And I love the kid aspect too, as dads who are raising their boys, and for me, daughters in the great outdoors. That's really the only way to do it. So I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. You too.
All right. Take care.